Longhorn football is despicable, the volleyball team is not invincible, and Aaron Rodgers' research is non-admissible. All this and more on College Crossfire.
He's coming back for that 2021 MVP. He's better than Josh Allen. He's better than Baker Mayfield. He's not better than Mahomes. I can't say that.
Well, Justin Tucker gives him his 99 rating in Madden.
Bye-bye, Bucks. Bye-bye, Raptors.
That's enough talk. Let's talk. Welcome to College Crossfire. I'm your host, Drew Jacob. Let's make the rounds. On first base, we've got Evan. Evan, how you doing today?
Yo, coming off a hot win. Got two veterans here. Great crowd here tonight. Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited to take another W tonight.
Yeah, you guys can't see, but we've got a capacity crowd in the Evan section, and they're going to make their voices heard, I'm sure. On second base, we've got Matt, the veteran. Matt, how you doing?
Happy to be here. Just remember the deal we had before the show.
That's true. Matt did try to bribe me, but don't worry, folks. I cannot be bought. And on third, we've got John. John, how you been?
I'm always happy to be here, trying to get a better win than Texas this past weekend.
Oof, yeah, they got to do better than them. But happy to have you guys on. Always good to have the bosses back on the show. Folks, I am running out of different ways to say this, but Texas is bad at football. The Longhorns traveled to Ames, Iowa for their fourth loss in a row, this time against Iowa State. Once again, the team went into halftime with a lead before having their lunch money stolen in the second half. With this 30-7 loss, the Longhorns now find themselves sitting at 4-5. The game itself had little to no redeeming qualities, so let's widen our scope a little. Panelists, it's time for you to give Steve Sarkisian a little performance review on how he's handled his first season in Austin so far. I'm sure it's going to be really nice and pleasant. Evan, start with you.
You know, I think we all were kind of caught up in the magic of the name of Steve Sarkisian, and I think we all expected a little too much from him this year. And we are pretty awful right now, so we can't be happy about how we're doing. But this is how all the coaches that we've hired in the 21st century have started. Strong and Herman both started 6-win, 7-win. I bet Sarkisian's going to end up around there, maybe a bowl game. But I think it's important to note that Sarkisian was brought in here to win in the SEC, and right now we're not in the SEC. Hopefully we'll be there next year. I think Sarkisian is our best chance at winning in the SEC. I think Texas will be better when he has a recruiting class to come in. I don't think the Texas fans can assess him until he's had a full 2 recruiting classes. By like 2023, it might be time to put him on the hot seat. But for now, the only recruit he's really brought in is Xavier Worthy, who's been awesome, probably the best freshman receiver in the country. And I don't think you can complain about what a pretty hard class to draft in when, with COVID, he came in really late into the recruiting. Herman had already started bringing people in. So I think it's important that we say, you know, Sark had a lot of problems coming into the year. It hasn't been solved this year, but we got to look forward to the next year. That's the only thing Texas fans can do.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of saying it, but exactly, we just have to kind of look to next year. You got to give these guys time. I just want to say, though, the remark about all the coaches we've hired in the 20th century, Texas has not hired a good coach in the 20th century.
That's
Mac
a good
Brown was,
point.
of course, in the 90s. Anyway, Matt, on to you next.
Well, like he mentioned, they all started the same way. They actually, Herman, Strong, and Sark all started 4-5 in their first 9 games. And the way you look at it is, yes, they're a bad team. Is Sark a bad coach? No. Like, as Texas fans, we always have high expectations, and those quickly get brought down because the team is not very good. But I think it comes down to more being a culture problem in the locker room, because Sark mentioned this in his radio show a couple weeks ago, is when you get hired at a program, you have a 60-40% buy-in. So 60% of the guys will buy into you. 40% would be maybe this guy is good, maybe he's not. Midway in the season, that changes to about 80-20. 80 of the guys like you, 20% don't. And those 20% are toxic. Like you saw with Josh Moore, he had his incident and he got in the portal. Then you saw yesterday with the Bo Davis video, a player recorded Bo Davis chewing them out, a much needed chew out. And obviously you're a player, that happens all the time, but you shouldn't be recording that, putting that on social media. So I don't think it's more that Sark's the issue. I think that there's a culture problem, and once Herman's guys get out of there and Sark's guys come in, I think it's going to be a very different Texas team.
Absolutely. You know, it feels like we've been speculating on culture issues at Texas since the end of Mac Brown's tenure, and it's just unraveling and becoming impossible to ignore at this point. So that's a tall task in front of Sark. He's going to have to fix that if he wants to get better. John, ending the question with you.
You know, I agree with Matt. It's definitely a issue of the culture in this team. And to be honest, I don't really care about the losses. I do really care about the culture. And it was really exposed in this Bo Davis video. You have a coach, you know, yelling at his players. That's not the issue. It's the issue that there was, laughter and some jovialness after this fourth straight loss. That's unacceptable. But who's stepping up? It's a coach. But who should be stepping up? It should be a player. And I think this goes to show that there's no leadership on this team. And that's something that is a foundation of the culture. And he's had almost, now it's November, almost a whole year since we found out he's been hired. He came to Texas, been talking to the players that were left over from the Herm area, talking to the players that were just brought in this year. That should have been the fundamentals, the foundation. And this far into the season, we're having issues like this exposed. It does bad things for the brand of Texas, and it is bad on the coaching staff as a whole. It's a bad look for the players. It's a bad look for the culture. That needs to be addressed. Number one, culture is the foundation. You fix that, things will start going well.
Absolutely. And leaking that video, I mean, to be honest, if you're a Texas fan, that is straight up embarrassing. Just having a player showing such disrespect during a chewing out, which, like you said, if you've ever been in a football locker room, that is standard. That being said, Matt, you are going to get the 3 on this one, John the 2, and Evan the 1.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad we got that one out of the way. Shifting gears now, let's take a look at Texas women's basketball, who tipped off their season last night with a home game against the University of New Orleans. Ironically, their city's nickname, the Big Easy, also describes Texas's win against the squad. The Longhorns woman-handled their weaker competition to the tune of a 95-point victory, with Kendall Hunter dropping 27 points on 77% shooting. Say what you will about the level of competition, but those are pregame shoot-around numbers being put up on D1 athletes. It goes without saying that punching a tomato can of a team doesn't tell us much about Texas's prospects as a whole, but what are your early impressions of the Longhorns now that the season has begun? And Matt, starting with you on this one.
Well, obviously New Orleans isn't known as being a basketball powerhouse, but to beat a team by almost 100 points, that's just flat out embarrassing for New Orleans. Texas, that's just really good for them. Obviously losing Charlie Collier, Kyler Lambert, and Celeste Taylor, you would think there's going to be a big drop-off in talent, but that wasn't the case. Schaefer brought in a great recruiting class. As you mentioned, Hunter had 17, Harmon had 8 assists. His freshmen came, they showed up. The whole team showed up, and obviously New Orleans isn't a really good team, but Texas is going to play against the defending national champ Stanford this week. That's going to be their first real test. And obviously, if you win by almost 100 points, there's not really much to fix. But their free throw shooting, they only shot 55% from the line against a team like New Orleans. So they need to fix that up, get up to like the 80s, 90s if they want to win games, because those free throws are going to be huge in close games.
Yeah, suddenly this team's going to find themselves playing real teams. I mean, no disrespect to New Orleans, but that's got to be maybe the worst team they're going to play all year. Free throw shooting is something they're going to have to clean up. Otherwise, it does look pretty good. John, moving on to you next.
I think Texas fans should take a note from the football team. They should be optimistic about this team. Obviously, it's an incredible win, but they should also be a bit hesitant. Obviously, this Texas team lost great leadership in Charlie Collier. But they had this great victory, so it bodes well for the team, but we still need to be cautious. I don't think we're writing this off as a season where they're going to be winning a championship just yet. I think we need to see a bit more from this team before we can make any conclusions.
I would agree with that. Basically, handling business like you should against lesser competition, it doesn't exactly raise the roof on your expectations for the team, but it doesn't set off any alarm bells. That's really all you can get out of a game like this. Evan, on to you next.
After this football season, I'm going to hesitate calling any Texas team underrated for the end of the year because, I said that about our football team. But
you did? Embarrassing.
But I think being rated number 25 after making the Elite Eight last year, obviously like Collier and a lot of not returning players coming to the team, but this freshman class, we're already seeing them show out. Harmon with the 8 assists, like you said. Hunter put up a great game, and I think only about 14 minutes played. I think it's important that we note that this team's only going to get better with these freshman players, and I think winning by 100 points is always going to be good. You're never going to complain. I think I'm a little scared about Stanford, the rebounding game. Our rebounding was great this game, but it's because New Orleans, all their players were 5 inches shorter than our center, so it wasn't like it was going to be a problem taking boards from them. But I think that's going to be a big problem, and as the year progresses, we're going to see how much the freshmen can impact the team. It might not be the greatest regular season, but hopefully this can be a team that can evolve into a really good March Madness run and hopefully come back to the Elite Eight.
This is some sentiment we've heard before about Texas women's basketball. Inexperienced teams tend to kind of gel and surprise some people and get a little better by March Madness time, and I really like that point, so I actually am going to give you the 3 on this one. Matt, you're going to get the 2, and John, you'll be getting the 1. On a similar note, Texas men's basketball opened up their season with a dominant win over outmatched Houston Baptist. Fun fact about Houston Baptist, their football field has bleacher seating on one side and a CVS on the other. That's true, look it up. And it should give you some indication of the level of athletics you'll find at HBU. In any case, the number 6 Longhorns did exactly what you would expect of them, winning by over 40 in a game that was never in doubt and leaving the Huskers battered and bruised on the bus ride home. Oh hey, good thing they have a CVS right on campus then. My question here is the same as the one we asked about the women's team. What are your thoughts about the team now that they have begun their out-of-conference play? And on this one, we're starting with John.
I'll tell you what, the thing that I liked the most about this win wasn't even on the court, it was in the bleachers. They set, I think it was the 4th largest attendance for a Texas opening game, but the seats were packed. The stadium was full. There were a lot of people there. And we looked to last season, look at the attendance records, look at the game film. It was a desert, a wasteland. They probably could have set up a CVS in the bleachers and it wouldn't have affected anything. So this season, seeing that there's so much excitement around Chris Beard's team, I think this, it'll bring a lot of energy to the team and it'll help carry them from this great victory they had yesterday on forward.
That is a really good point. The student section looked very hyped. This is easily the most preseason hype the team has had during my time at the 40 Acres, and that's gonna matter a lot. So hopefully I can carry that momentum forward and keep it going. Evan, on to you next.
Big sports with Texas. They haven't been going well this year. I think actually I said the women's team was underrated. I think we're a little overrated coming into the year. Sorry if that's mean to the team, but I really liked what I saw of the team last game. We have about 10 players all getting really meaningful minutes and really meaningful playing time, which for most college basketball teams, only about 8-7 players by the end of the tournament are getting rotational minutes. So it's really important that we're getting a lot of players involved. Even Brock Cunningham, 4 fouls, great stat line for him, but even he is putting up minutes and getting in there and playing good defense. I think we have some of the most balanced scoring we've ever seen from a Texas team. Carr and Jones were called probably a top 3 duo coming into the year. Looks like it's going to be that way again. Andrew Jones had 5 steals last night. I don't think that we're going to beat Gonzaga. I think that team is just really, really tall team, has a lot of veteran players like Timmy and even Chet Holmgren, who's a freshman this year, but he's 3 inches taller than our tallest player. I think we played great defense last game. I don't know how we're going to start Gonzaga scores. I think it's going to be a tough road for Texas this year. Hopefully it can translate into another Big 12 championship, but I'm going to be a little less optimistic than I think others will be. Yeah, getting Gonzaga that early in the season is a tough draw for the Longhorns, but overall you can learn a lot from how they play in that game, whether it's going to be a win or a loss. Matt, on to you next.
Well, I really like what Beard did because I watched the game. I was there. He went into the transfer portal preseason, got the best guys out of the transfer portal. I would compare this team to comparing like the NBA All-Star game when you're drafting players. He got the best guys he could find, put them on his team, and watching the rotation last night is they all got meaningful minutes. As you said, they all scored pretty evenly. My only concern is, yes, he won by 50. HBU is not a great athletic school.
Of course.
But they only had a rebound advantage of +1 against HBU. You win by 50, if you're only +1 on the boards. That obviously is going to be a problem against teams like Gonzaga and teams in conference play, because you're not going to win a lot of games if you're not getting the boards.
Yeah, once you start playing teams who have athletes that even belong on the same court as you, this lack of rebounding is going to come back to bite you. So Matt, you're getting it's truthful. So for that one, Matt, you're getting the 3, Evan the 2, and John the 1. When we come back, we're going to be taking a look at Texas volleyball and recapping last week in the NFL. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Crossfire. Before we get started, let's take a look at the scoreboard. Leading the show, we've got Matt with 8 points. Coming up close in second, we've got Evan with 6. And in third, we've got John with 4. A lot of game left, though, and it could be anyone's game. Let's jump back in. Texas volleyball got handed their first loss of the season in a matchup against the 10th-ranked Baylor Bears. Going into it, the Longhorns were riding high with an 18-0 record and the number 1 overall ranking. Coming out, they have neither. Still, the Horns remain on the top in the Big 12, and it looks as though they've decided to forego disbanding the program because of this loss. That being said, do you expect the team to face a post-loss hangover in their upcoming games, or will the Horns be able to bounce back and return to their winning ways? On this one, we'll start with Evan.
Volleyball is the one sport that Texas had going for them, and they had to lose. But this team's only lost 3 times since 2020. They're not used to losing, and it might be a little hard to get over it. but it's still a really talented team. Logan Eggleston's still probably the best volleyball player in the country. I think it's just going to be a tough game that they have to get over. Oklahoma's tomorrow and Friday. They should have their mentals reset. It's been over a week since they've last played, and they just need to really eliminate the streakiness. That's what Baylor won the game with. First set and third set, 7-0 run and a 5-0 run that got them right back into the set. And it's just important that they eliminate these mistakes and mental errors that could get these teams to have runs. Oklahoma's a good program. Texas should still win, and it should still be a pretty easy road into the final for them and into a really good tournament run. I'm not worried at all. People shouldn't be worried. There's still a top 5 team in the country. One loss is just a tiny slip up.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, they're number 2. You know, you can't expect like literal perfection out of a team. They're going to drop games here and there, and it's not like Baylor's a team full of scrubs. So I would agree with your assessment. Matt, on to you next.
Like as you mentioned, Baylor's not a bad team. They're number 10 team in the country coming to this matchup. But Texas swept them the first game, so they already had the first win. And the second game, Baylor won, but they were all close sets. So I really wouldn't worry about this because obviously you're not going to go undefeated through the season. I'd rather them lose now than lose in the tournament when it actually matters. So take your loss now to Baylor. At least you're not losing to Rice like you have been for the past 2 seasons. You lost to a good team. And their upcoming schedule is not that bad. Like, you have Oklahoma 2 games. You have Kansas State, and Kansas State is bottom-tier sports in any sport they play. And then you have Texas Tech. Volleyball shouldn't have an issue finishing the season strong. And they just have great players, Eggleston, Fields, Breon Butler. They have a whole bunch of players that will make a big impact, and I'm not worried about them. No one should be worried about them. They're still going to go in the tournament with a high ranking.
This is true, and you mentioning their schedule, that's a big part of it. Other than Baylor, I don't think they really have anyone to worry about catching up with them. So anyway, John, I'm going to end the question with you.
This Texas team is going to win a championship.
Hey!
And you know why I say that? This team is so used to having a chip on its shoulder. Let's rewind the clock to 2020. They're arguably one of the best teams. Obviously, they lost to Kentucky in the championship. But one of the best teams, playing a full fall Big 12 season, then going on to play some more games in the spring. For the longest time of that 2020 season, guess where they were ranked? Despite being undefeated, they were number 2, under a team that didn't even play until the spring. Who is that team? Wisconsin, which they ended up beating in the tournament. But they went that entire season pretty much all the way undefeated besides that game to Rice. But all the way through that season, most of the season, ranked at number 2. Then they had this loss to Rice. And then they're disrespected with a number 4 berth in the tournament for one of the best teams in the country, going on to be the runner-up in the tournament. So they're used to having the chip on their shoulder. Going into this season, their loss to Baylor. Baylor is a great team. A lot better than Rice, as Matt said. And now they're back at number 2. This team, this is where they've been the past season. Last season, this is almost exactly the same team, minus 1 person. Going in to the rest of the season, Big 12 championship, going on to get a national championship. This is their comfort zone, and they're going to prove that as the season goes on.
Excellent. No, absolutely. You know, this roster's been through this before, and you did get bonus points for making such a strong declaration. That being said, Matt really covered this issue top to bottom, so he'll be getting the 3 on this one. John, don't worry, you're getting the 2. And Evan, you'll be getting the 1. Strong answers all around. These boys love volleyball. Shifting now to the NFL. Shifting now to the NFL. Last weekend's slate of games proved to be an eclectic bunch. Super Bowl contenders got upset by lesser teams. The referees on Monday's Bears versus Steelers game introduced a new definition to the term flag football. And Aaron Rodgers was too busy doing his own research to suit up for Green Bay's game against the Chiefs. I expect his findings will be published any day now, by the way. That being said, panelists, what do you think is the biggest story coming out of Week 9 in the National Football League? And on this one, we're starting with Matt.
Well, obviously this week was a very crazy week, but you gotta look at it as just the upsets. Like, you had the Jaguars taking down the Bills. You had the Broncos absolutely stomping the Cowboys. You had the Giants beating the Raiders. You had all these upsets. Even the Bengals lost to the Odell Beckham-less Browns. Like, you just gotta look at it. It's any given Sunday. No win's going to be a guaranteed win, and anything can happen in the NFL.
This is true. You know, in the NFL, every team's got talent. They're all full of NFL players. It's just interesting when multiple happen in 1 week. It was a very fun week to watch. So, John, we're on to you next.
I think it's something you mentioned in the prelude to this question with the flags on Monday. Mm-hmm. But overall, this whole season, the refereeing has been terrible. And I think this just adds to the narrative of the fact that oversight on referees and the ability to either challenge, go up to the booth on more calls. It is a complete overhaul of the review and challenge system in order to make the game fair for all teams.
Absolutely. You know, I thought I was the only one thinking this, but the officiating's been so bad in spots this year. It's got me thinking back to the year with the scab refs. I mean, it's just been that excruciating. But Evan, we're on to you next.
You know, as a Steelers fan, that Monday night game was very fun for me. I enjoyed that. But you know, I think that the game I might have enjoyed even more was, you know, team that's being put as number 2 in the power rankings. Stephen A. Smith called them number 1 in the league, and then they go for 55 minutes, shut up by the Denver Broncos, the Dallas Cowboys. How about them boys? 30 points. They only put up some garbage time points at the end to make it look closer, but does that offend you a little bit? You upset about that?
All right.
You know, that was just an entertaining game through and through. You know, are the Broncos legit after losing 4 out of 5? I don't know, but it was fun to watch. So that was a surprise and a happy one for me.
I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Not only that, I've got CeeDee Lamb on my fantasy team. What an awful game for me.
Too.
So as much as I agree, John, you are getting the 3 on this one. Evan, the 2. Despite myself, you're getting the 2, and Matt, the 1. We've got to take another break, but when we come back, it'll be for all the marbles, because up next is Rapid Fire. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back. That was a quick one, wasn't it? I hope our panel is ready to think on their toes because it's time for Rapid Fire, which of course means it's anyone's game!
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you like basketball? Do you like comebacks? Do you hate the Lakers? If you answered yes to any of these questions, this is the segment for you. In this young NBA season, Los Angeles has already taken 2 L's to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The catch? Both have come as the result of outright collapses committed by the Lakers, with the Thunder coming back down from 19 and 26 points respectively in their 2 meetings. Getting to see some blown leads as an impartial observer for once has reminded us of just how fun rallies in sports can be. That said, what is the best comeback win any of you have ever witnessed? And of course, anyone can jump in.
Well, I got to tell you, Drew, when it comes to comeback wins that I've witnessed, it's a very unfortunate one for all of us here in studio. I unfortunately was at the house that Doak built a month ago to witness one of the greatest football comebacks in history by the Oklahoma Sooners against the Texas Longhorns. And I tell you, I was in the Oklahoma press box. Trust me, I bear the pain of having to sit through people who report on Oklahoma for a living, being celebratory. But to give props to Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, and Oklahoma, what a comeback it was.
I will say, given how stinky Texas is this year, I don't know if it can be the best comeback. But at the time, I was there too. Boy, was it terrible. Anyone else?
I got a better one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.
I think we'll all enjoy this one. A few years back, A&M is up huge on UCLA. Guess who loses that game? Texas A&M.
Classic. That was incredible. Right?
I got one that hits close to home. My boy, Juan Soto, wild card game 2019. I was there in person with my mom. It was great. We were down 3-1 in the 8th inning. Bases loaded. Juan Soto, single out to right. Trent Grisham from right field makes an error. 3 runners score. Soto rounds the bases. We get the save. Go on to win the World Series. It's just a storybook win for the Washington Nationals.
Absolutely. These are 3 very good picks, but for the fact that yours took place in the playoffs and that you saw it with your mom, word up to Mom, I'm giving you the points on this one. For most of the season, the special Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli have been superior to the traditional broadcast, with the Elder Manning offering his extensive insight into the game in a witty manner that showcases a refreshing amount of personality. Eli Manning has also been present. This more laid-back, conversational tone has been a hit with the fans so far, and as such, it got us thinking, what other duos do you think would succeed if given the same format as Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli? Anyone can jump in?
Give me Snoop Dogg and Marshawn Lynch.
No, that answer is self-evident. I like it, yeah.
Oh,
Who else?
I don't have
Hot seat, hot seat, hot seat, hot seat.
Hot seat. I go maybe a bit of an odd combo. I'd just go Randy Moss and Tom Brady. Just the 2 very different people who shared a field together. 2 great players, but that would be the most chaotic and probably awkward broadcast of all time if they were both in the booth together.
I'll take a lot of broadcast Randy Moss's honor pretty often.
Yeah.
John?
I tell you what, not to be narcissistic or anything, but I think myself and TSTV legend Clark Dalton would have an amazing broadcast. Clark busting out the Constitution, reading it to everyone on ESPN2, and myself giving such lovely color commentary as "And His Mother Knits Potholders." Great hit. And most likely, even though it's football, puck drop, they're off.
Well, you know, for the self-confidence and for shouting out Clark, I'm going to have to give you the points on this one. So fun fact, everybody, for this one, whoever gets this question will win the whole game. And this one is interesting because I requested some time for something that I feel is very important. Oh, no. Fellas, it's time to complain. Specifically, we're going to be bellyaching about Texas's absolutely abysmal, sorry, no good, rotten, low down, embarrassing, break-filled 4-5 season. Yeah. I'm a senior, for gosh sake. So this is the note I'm going to be leaving the student section on. Points are not going to be given on the basis of how diplomatic you are, so you guys just air it all out. Airing it all out, which is exactly what I have to do when I watch this team play. I have to air out my living room because they stink. Anyone can jump in.
This season, if College Station was a football season, that's what this season is.
That's mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just bad, okay? Like, we came into the season, Sark comes in, we're expecting a great team. We're going to win national championship, Big 12, yeah. Maybe if we played only the first half every single game, we'd be undefeated national champs, but they can't get it done in the second half. Like, it sucks. Like, freshman year, 10-4. Sophomore year, 8-5. 7-4 the next year. Now what are we going to be, 6-6, 4-8?
At best, if we're lucky, yeah. If Texas is lucky.
Being a Texas fan's hard. Takes years off your life.
It's been brutal, and you know, something I've been telling people, that 10-4 season, not particularly good. If you look at Texas's winning percentage in historical sense, that is an average season, and that's the best that current seniors have got. Anyway, Evan?
Yeah, this is probably very off topic, but I just have to report a grievance with the Texas Stadium. There is such bad atmosphere before the games when I go there. You know, I'm a freshman. I go there. I'm thinking, I'm going to the biggest, best university for sports in the whole country. And I go there, the music guy's awful. I don't know what that guy's doing the whole time. They're playing some cupcake music out there. Let's get some funny things. When Xavier Worthy's coming out, X gonna give it to you. You know, it's a little politically incorrect song, fun song to sing along to. Let's play some awesome songs out there. That guy's got no idea what he's doing. Get me out there. Then the rest of the stadium, we do Texas Fight maybe 30 times when it should be going maybe 10. We don't know what we're doing down there. The team's so bad that we gotta find a way to cheer the crowds up. But we can't cheer the crowd up when we're watching Casey Thompson throw ducks the whole game. So then the cheerleaders got to kind of make up for it. But the cheerleaders are doing too much, and the whole thing's awful. It really, I don't like watching Texas football anymore.
Absolutely, they're brutal. They're brutal to watch. They're not even worth watching. And you know what? Just editorializing for a second. When I was 9 and I saw Colt McCoy, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for the most mediocre, overrated team in the last 11 years. Anyway, Matt, maybe it's because we're both seniors. Maybe it's because you ran through, the full 4 years. But you're getting the points on this one and the win. Do we have time for FaceTime? Matt, take it away. We're going to FaceTime.
Okay. Texas needs to win this week. You lose to Kansas. Come on, you can't lose to Kansas. Fire everybody if you lose to Kansas. I think if we lose to Kansas, I'm going to the transfer portal. Beat Kansas this week. Try to go to a bowl game. Yeah, go UTSA. Let's go Birds.
Well, Matt, you said it all right there. So congrats to you for the win tonight, and thank you all for tuning in to tonight's episode of College Crossfire. Don't forget to follow us on social media at TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Lastly, be sure to wake up with the 1-0 Sports Show Friday mornings at 10 a.m. For all of us in the studio, panelists, everyone in Master Control, I'm Drew Jacob. Have a wonderful evening.